So how is it that you can be authorized to work? Well, first, for F-1 students, you cannot work until after you have studied for one academic year. But after that, you could possibly work on campus during the school year or off campus under the main two areas are what we call curricular practical training, or CPT, or optional practical training, or OPT, which is what majority of students tend to do. Now, CPT is really, if let's say you have to do some work that's related to your major, then you obviously apply for CPT. If it's granted, then you can do that, and it's related to your major at school. But it's work that's really, it's curricular, so it might be even a job that you have to do as part of your major. Optional practical training, however, is work that is also related to your major, but it's not necessarily part of your curriculum. Maybe if you're a business major, you're going to work in a business. Finance major, investment, you get a summer job working at a stock trading company, for example. Now, CRT, OPT can be done during the school year, but it can only be done part-time. During vacations and breaks, you can work full-time. Now, in addition, once you graduate from school, if you're an F-1 student, you can apply for OPT, for postgraduate OPT, and that's up to 1 year. Now, if you work during, while you're in school, before you graduated, whether it's CPT or OPT, during school, in school, during breaks, etc., that time will be deducted from your postgraduate OPT time. So you need to keep that in mind. If you use up 1 year of OPT in school, then you will not have any eligibility for postgraduate OPT. Now, this similarly applies to M1 vocational students. However, M1 vocational students cannot work until they have finished their studies. So essentially, they have the 1 year of OPT after graduation. Now, in addition, there are a couple of additional things to consider for OPT. First of all, if you go into a graduate program after you've used a year of OPT, let's say that after you graduate with a bachelor's, you decide to do some OPT, and then you decide, I want to study and get a master's. So you can study for a master's, and then at the completion of your master's, you could work for another year. And you could do this again if you were a doctoral student. So you can get additional years, but it requires you to study at a higher level of education. Now, aside from that, if you are in a STEM program, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, then you should be eligible for a 2-year extension of your OPT. So after you're granted the initial OPT and during your year of working as OPT, you can then apply for 2 additional years of OPT. So that's something to consider if you're a STEM student. One other item that you should consider, if you have an internet-based business and you're operating that while you're here on a student visa, then if it's discovered, then that again is considered work here. Any kind of work, unless it's authorized. Now, it is possible for entrepreneurs that you could get OPT related to your company that's here, working in if you have a startup and you're working at the startup. But you have to get OPT first. If you don't have OPT, then whatever work you do is going to be considered a violation of your student status. That includes any kind of internet-based businesses, blogging. You know, if you want to blog and say, hey, you know, here I am as a student and you're getting paid to do this, those could be things that would be considered employment. And of course, it's a case-by-case basis. In summary, you can work in the United States as a student after you study for at least 1 year for F-1 students and after your studies are complete for M-1 students. There are programs that immigration provides that as a student you can still maintain your status and do this training, OPT, CPT. However, once that period ends, which is traditionally, CPT is during school and OPT is, you know, if you've applied for it, up to 1 year of postgraduate OPT, then that's the length of time you can work. The work must be related to your major. It has to be related to your studies. In other words, if your major is biochemistry, then you cannot do OPT as a bank teller. Similarly, if your background is in finance, then you cannot do OPT as a chef. So that you need to keep in mind. But the length of time is 1 year unless you're in a STEM program, which means you can extend it for 2 years. Or if you go back to school, get a graduate degree, then you have another 1 year of OPT after you graduate from that advanced degree. Again, it's very important to know these rules because you don't want it to affect your immigration status, number one. And then number two, you don't want it to affect your future ability to come back to the United States if that's your intention, you know, for working or for even just travel, visiting, etc. Or if later on you end up wanting to immigrate to the United States for any reason. Now, there are some exceptions to this, which if there's a question, you can always contact our office and we can talk about that. But that's really a case-by-case situation. So good luck with your studies and find the right work.